In a quiet suburban neighborhood, nestled among well-kept lawns and friendly neighbors, a chilling crime unfolded that sent shockwaves through the community. The Johnson family, a seemingly perfect household, became the epicenter of this terrifying tale. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the neighborhood, a masked intruder silently crept into the Johnsons' home. They had meticulously planned every detail, leaving no trace of their presence. With gloved hands, they made their way to the master bedroom, where Mr. and Mrs. Johnson lay sound asleep, blissfully unaware of the nightmare about to unfold. The intruder, motivated by a twisted desire, began to enact their sinister plan. Gently, they bound the couple's wrists and ankles with zip ties, ensuring they couldn't escape. The room was eerily quiet, except for the soft, strained breathing of the Johnsons. The masked figure then produced a small, sinister object, a syringe filled with a deadly substance. With cold precision, they injected the lethal cocktail into Mr. Johnson's arm, and then Mrs. Johnson's. The poison worked swiftly and silently, extinguishing the life from their bodies. Their eyes, once filled with love and warmth, now stared lifelessly into the abyss. As dawn broke, the sun's first rays illuminated the gruesome scene, the lifeless bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, still bound to their bed. The neighborhood awakened to a sight that shattered their sense of security. Detectives arrived, their faces etched with grim determination. They combed through the Johnsons' lives, uncovering secrets that seemed inconceivable in such a peaceful community. Tensions rose as neighbors turned on each other, each suspecting the other of being the masked intruder. But despite their best efforts, the police were stymied. The killer had left no fingerprints, no DNA, and no clues to their identity. It was as if they had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the chilling memory of that horrifying night. As the days turned into weeks and then months, the Johnsons' murder remained unsolved, a haunting reminder that even in the most idyllic of places, darkness could lurk just beneath the surface. The once tranquil neighborhood had been forever scarred by the terror of that night, and the specter of the masked intruder continued to haunt the collective nightmares of its residents, a true crime story that defied resolution. Deep in the heart of Ravenswood, a town shrouded in darkness and dread, the Elderwood loomed like a malevolent sentinel. The cursed tree's legend had grown more terrifying with each passing generation. Generations after the gruesome fate of the newcomers, the town had become a forsaken place. Its crumbling buildings were overrun by nature, and only the bravest dared to speak of the Elderwood, now known as the Tree of Lost Souls. The townsfolk had devised a macabre tradition to appease the vengeful spirit within the Elderwood. On the eve of each new moon, they would select a sacrificial victim, usually an outsider, and leave them tied to the tree as an offering. The victim's screams would pierce the night, their life force absorbed by the malevolent spirit, temporarily satiating its hunger. One moonless night, a group of outsiders arrived in Ravenswood, unaware of its dark secret. Among them was Sarah, a young woman with a deep curiosity about the town's unsettling history. As the group ventured into the heart of the forest, the Elderwood watched with sinister anticipation. Sarah's curiosity led her to the Tree of Lost Souls. Ignoring the warnings of her companions, she touched the tree, its bark cold and clammy to the touch. The forest fell silent, and a haunting whisper filled the air. Sarah realized too late that she had become the chosen sacrifice. Her friends tried to free her, but an invisible force held them back. Sarah's screams echoed through the forest as the malevolent spirit exacted its terrible revenge. Her body withered, her face twisted in agony, and her soul was devoured by the tree, which seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. The outsiders barely escaped with their lives, forever haunted by the memory of Sarah's gruesome demise. They fled Ravenswood, spreading tales of the cursed town and its insatiable tree. But the curse followed them, manifesting in their nightmares and driving them to madness. As for Ravenswood, it remained a forsaken place, its inhabitants trapped in a never-ending cycle of terror and sacrifice. The Elderwood continued to feed on the souls of those who dared to enter its domain, its twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, a monument to the town's eternal nightmare. And so, the legend of Ravenswood and the Tree of Lost Souls grew even more terrifying with each passing generation, a chilling reminder that some horrors could never be escaped. In the small, isolated town of Ravenswood, nestled deep within the woods, there was a legend that sent shivers down the spines of the locals. The story spoke of an ancient tree, known as the Elderwood, said to be cursed by a vengeful spirit. Years ago, a group of reckless teenagers decided to test the legend. They ventured into the heart of the forest on a moonless night, guided only by dim flashlights. As they approached the Elderwood, an eerie silence enveloped them. The forest seemed to hold its breath. As they reached the towering tree, they noticed something strange, a series of grotesque faces etched into the gnarled bark, as if the tree itself had witnessed unspeakable horrors. Ignoring the ominous warning, one of the teenagers, Mark, dared to touch the tree. Instantly, the night air turned icy cold. Suddenly, the forest came alive with sinister whispers, and ghostly apparitions emerged from the shadows. Panicking, the group attempted to flee, but an invisible force held them captive. Mark's screams echoed through the woods as the vengeful spirit exacted its revenge. The next morning, the townsfolk found the teenagers' lifeless bodies, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. The legend of the Elderwood grew even darker. Years passed, and the town of Ravenswood fell into disrepair. The forest slowly crept closer to the town's borders, swallowing homes and streets. The townspeople became prisoners in their own decaying community. One fateful night, a group of newcomers moved to Ravenswood, unaware of its tragic history. Curiosity led them to the infamous Elderwood, where they discovered the etched faces and the lingering malevolence in the air. The spirit, hungry for new victims, stirred once more. The newcomers, desperate to escape the forest's clutches, realized that they had become part of the never-ending nightmare that was Ravenswood. They, too, joined the spectral faces on the Elderwood, forever trapped in its cursed embrace. And so, the legend lived on, a chilling reminder to all who dared to tread into the heart of Ravenswood, a place where the past and present merged in a never-ending nightmare, where the cursed Elderwood hungered for fresh souls to claim.